That was a gross performance by Tennessee's offense against Oklahoma, and now the playoff hopes, they're all but gone. And unless there's wild chaos in November, I don't see a clear path for the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm Paige Dower. This is the Sports Page. Let's talk about that 33-27 loss. Big plays, turnovers, and complimentary football won this game. And typically that sounds like a Tennessee win, as that's been their formula for much of the season. But to the extreme unfortunate luck of the Volunteers, it was Oklahoma who was able to do that. The Sooners did something that they had rarely done all season long, and it was forcing turnovers, seemingly drive after drive, and finding big plays in all three phases of the game. And like I mentioned last night, this game felt that it was all but over in the first half. And that was because of the Oklahoma defense, proving why it's one of the best in the nation, because they were able to come up with timely stops or timely turnovers. A couple of times in the first half, it came when Tennessee was inside the Sooners' own 25-yard line. And if we can rewind to Friday, when I was talking to Jenni Carlson of the Oklahoman, she said that for Oklahoma to walk away with a win in dark mode inside Neyland Stadium, they were going to have to do something that they've rarely done all season, and that was create turnovers.
It's been a little bit of a head scratcher that they've been as good as they've been defensively and yet not been able to figure out ways to get turnovers. I mean, you would almost dumb luck into more turnovers than this defense has had. So guys like Taylor Wine, R. Mason Thomas, if they could figure out ways not just to get guys on the ground, but to get the ball out, I think it'd be a huge step in the right direction for this defense.
To add to Tennessee's extreme unfortunate luck in this game, that 71-yard scoop and score by R. Mason Thomas, it was the longest return in Oklahoma program history. But before R. Mason Thomas even reached the end zone, there were two things that were really puzzling on that play. The first, Miles Kitselman had R. Mason Thomas locked up. At least one arm was, locked up in the block, yet somehow R. Mason Thomas had enough mobility to reach down and scoop the ball up with one hand, and then Miles Kitselman, who was taller and bigger, for some reason just wasn't able to either punch the ball out or get his hands in the right placement to try and bring R. Mason Thomas down. And then once he broke that tackle, he was pretty much home free with like three blockers in his area, so no one was really going to reach him there. But before we even get to R. Mason Thomas getting the scoop and then the score, you could go back to the alignment on the line of scrimmage when the ball was snapped. Joey Aguilar was under distress for much of this game. Like, that is a known quantity in this matchup. And it came on that play with Davis Sanders Jr., who looked like he was about to bring support for a double team and didn't recognize the pressure on the edge. And that's exactly what happened. He was a step too slow, and the edge rusher was able to get around Davis Sanders Jr., and he just pops Joey Aguilar, and the ball comes loose, and R. Mason Thomas gets the touchdown. Joey has to help himself sometimes. It was the same trend that we saw against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oftentimes it feels like he doesn't see the pressure, and he often holds on to the ball for a beat too long. He doesn't throw it away, and then of course the offensive line just not there to help him, because some of the times it happens like it feels like in under a second. That second quarter interception when it was down the field into double coverage to Chris Brazzell, you have Ethan Davis and Deshaun Bishop helping to set the edge. But then, even with those extra bodies, Oklahoma on their defensive line able to bring somebody right up the middle. They get the inside on Sam Pendleton, and Joey Aguilar is almost lit up. He gets the ball off, but in a way, it kind of felt like it was a desperation throw. It was up for grabs, and the ball was short because of the pressure and maybe him being on his back foot, as Josh Heupel mentioned on one of his interceptions. Ball short, it gets intercepted. Had he had 1 second more, had he been able to move his eyes just a little bit quicker off of Chris Brazzell, he likely would have seen Braylon Staley underneath, who kind of was wide open, had a much better window to go and make a play. But Aguilar never saw him, I don't think, and had no time to even course correct and make a separate decision because he was immediately under pressure. But here's Joey Aguilar.
Your business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.
First one, they did a good job disguising the coverage right there, rolled down. went into cover one, safety, roll over to the field. They got me on that one, but got me on the first one, and then second one just trying to stay in, make a hit, stay in, make a pass while getting hit, kind of just held the ball.
What makes these offensive mental lapses even worse? Tennessee's defense showed up. For much of the season, Tennessee's offense has been carrying this team, and the second that the Tennessee defense finally answers the bell, it's not fully realized. To open up the game, Brent Venables called a timeout 90 seconds into the game. Maybe part of it was to calm his guys down, also because the crowd for dark mode was absolutely electric. The Tennessee defense was able to force a couple of punts to start the game, and the offense there capitalized on it, right? A touchdown to Braylon Staley, his fourth on the season, and then a field goal by Max Gilbert. Unfortunately, we realized that those field goals were not going to win the game there. But even when the offensive momentum slowed down, the defense picked it right back up. They finally got their first turnover in the third quarter, and it came by Idris Farouk. He was incredibly physical, fundamentally sound, getting the punch out, and then pursuing the ball once it was free on the ground, and ended up coming with the fumble recovery as well. And this was Idris telling me about that play after the game.
With that play, I just was straining through the whistle, just playing hard and doing my assignment and just executing.
And then Tennessee goes 3 and out on offense. So the extra possession that Tennessee gets when they were already limited in their possessions because of the way that John Mateer and the offense was working for Oklahoma, Tennessee's not able to do anything with it. And it just becomes such a gut punch in that moment when you're not able to even convert it for a field goal, when Tennessee's defense is doing about everything that it can in this matchup. And what we noticed about Tennessee's defense was throughout the week, we heard from the players and even the coaches, like defensive line coach and Rodney Garner, taking true accountability. Like they know it internally and they heard it externally, all of the criticism that this defense was just not up to par. And, Rodney Garner was like, it does come down to coaching better. Like, we've got to get them better in practice. We've got to get back to those fundamentals with wrapping guys up and tackling. Like, we have to do a better job. That outward accountability translated to Oklahoma. You could see that they were playing with a chip on their shoulder. The tackling was so much better. They were so sharp on third downs, 4 of 10 on those third down attempts by Oklahoma, and it's because of what they were able to do in the middle of the field. And they were flying around in this game as well. They had 3 sacks, 3 TFLs, they had multiple pass breakups, they had an interception, they had a number of quarterback hurries and forced fumbles. Like, they were doing what they needed to do, and it was because of how locked in they were together and maybe finally had that trust that they had been talking about all season.
I was really more just pleased with, I felt like guys went out there and contributed and did their jobs and played with a high level. We just got to continue carrying that from the first half to the second half, all the way to the bottom end of that clock hit 0. So just taking that next step and finishing.
Bottom line, that was not a pretty outing by Tennessee, certainly not a performance you want to see this late into the college football season. And because of it, I wouldn't be surprised if they switch spots with Oklahoma in this week's AP poll. I imagine they might be between 18 and 20 in this week's AP poll, and that might be generous in of itself as well. If we go back to the Week 10 poll, Tennessee was just one of 2 teams inside the top 15 with 2 losses. It was Tennessee and Notre Dame. But now with 3 losses on the year, 18 to 20 in this week's AP poll might be generous. It's just not the performance you wanted out of a Tennessee Volunteer team this late into the season. But they've got to get those offensive line issues figured out. Joey Aguilar has to find a better way to perform when he is under distress, and that is a lot to ask of a quarterback. But he just has to do a better job with his eye discipline and recognizing when there's pressure, when to throw the ball away. There's a couple of times he definitely could have scrambled a little bit better, but there needs to be more support from that offensive line, and you hope that Tennessee defense continues to show up, and maybe having this bye week comes at a really critical time for this team to work on true fundamentals and techniques such as that. But where do you think Tennessee will be in this week's AP poll? We also have the Lady Vols talking later today, so I'll have reactions and recap from that press conference, and then reactions to the AP poll and maybe what you guys think that they'll be in. So certainly make sure your notifications are turned on. And that's our show for today. I'm Paige Dowd. This is the Sports Page. I'll be back later today and this week.